Police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of a young man whose body was found lying along the roadside in Nugent Heights, Nevis. Police received the report Sunday morning at about 8:30 a.m. The body had visible signs of injury. The district medical doctor arrived on the scene and pronounced the man dead. The deceased has since been identified as 20-year-old Javon Brandy of Brown Hill. Members of the crime scene unit visited and processed the scene. Investigations are ongoing and an autopsy to determine the exact cause of death has been scheduled, police said. Meanwhile, police are also investigating an incident in which a man is believed to have drowned at sea. Anthony Jules, age 51, was last seen fishing on a raft at Deer Bay at around 8:30 a.m. on February 28th. Sometime thereafter, the raft was seen overturned in the water and his body was found shortly after following a search. An autopsy is expected to be performed to determine the exact cause of death. Investigations into the matter are ongoing, police said. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.
Dr. Terence Drew, chairman of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, said the country might not be sufficiently prepared to tackle the novel coronavirus or COVID-19 should it spread to St. Kitts and Nevis. According to Dr. Drew, even developed countries are having much difficulty in containing the virus. He believes that assistance should be sought to ensure that resources are available to deal with the virus. Responding to an SKN Newsline query on his thoughts on the nation's preparedness, Dr. Drew, a medical doctor by profession, believes there is much more that needs to be done.
Our people should start to be prepared psychologically. That will give us the psychological preparedness and to build confidence in whatever plan is being put in place. And so I will call for more communication, more openness, more transparency with what is being put in place to deal with this virus. Why? The CDC has just warned that it's possible that there can be an outbreak in the United States of America. We know that most of our tourists and our international communication and so forth and relationship come from the United States of America in terms of transport, tourists, food, and many other things. So if it hits the U.S. and spread through the U.S., there will be no doubt that the Caribbean will be hit. I am saying today that we do not have the necessary specialists on the ground to deal with this. We do not have an infectious disease specialist. We do not have a respiratory specialist. We do not have respiratory texts. Most people might die from a respiratory failure. Do we have the necessary things in place to ensure there's protection at the border? Do we have numbers to call if we suspect anything? Where do we go? What do we do? The people have to be informed and updated. I'm very concerned about this, When I see what is happening in Iran, when I see what's happening in Europe, Italy, and when I see that the CDC is having nightmares, and now the World Health Organization is wondering if this would become a pandemic, and we see that Olympics are being threatened in Japan, our country, which is a small country, which will be devastated. Our healthcare system is so fragile because of its weakness and lack of resources and proper leadership, it will break. I am saying that our people have to say, let's put this politics aside now and work together to ensure that we can do it. I'm calling on the Ministry of Health again. I'm calling on the Ministers of Health. Take this warning seriously and let us put the necessary things in place to protect all of our people.
The Nevis Reformation Party retained its hold on the Nevis 5 seat after Mrs. Cleone Stapleton Simmons won Thursday's by-election handsomely. The NRP candidate won the seat with 514 votes, while Mr. Keith Scarborough of the Concerned Citizens Movement, CCM, gained 191 votes. A total of 713 persons cast their ballots. which represented a 46.5% voter turnout. There was a total of 5 polling stations: the Cotton Ground Community Center 5-1, which was assigned a total of 585 votes. The center was subdivided in 2 sections: 5-1A with 285 votes and 5-1B with the remaining 294 voters. In polling station 5-1A, Mrs. Stapleton Simmons won 113 votes, while Mr. Scarborough got 34. At polling station 1B, there are 83 and 41 votes respectively. There was no spoiled ballots. There was a total of 5 rejected ballots. In the Jessops Community Center, Nevis 5-2, a total of 658 voters were assigned. It was subdivided into 2 sections: Nevis 5-2A with 330 and Nevis 5-2B with 328 voters assigned. In polling station 5-2A, Mrs. Stapleton Simmons won 119 votes and Mr. Scarborough 42, and in Nevis 5-2B 119 and 38 respectively. There were no spoilt ballots. There was a total of 2 rejected ballots. For the Nevis Performing Arts Center NEPAC, Nevis 5-3, a total of 296 voters were assigned. Mrs. Stapleton won 80 votes and Mr. Scarborough won 36. There were no spoilt ballots. There was 1 rejected ballot. Mrs. Stapleton Simmons will be the lone member of the opposition in the 5-seat Nevis Island Assembly. She is also a first-time politician. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.
Protect yourself from the novel coronavirus. Wash your hands thoroughly and frequently for at least 20 seconds each time. Avoid shaking hands and touching your face with unclean hands. If you have to cough or sneeze, do so into your flexed elbow or a paper towel and then dispose of it. Keep a distance of 3 feet away from anyone with the cold or flu-like symptoms. Boost your immune system with vitamins, drink plenty of water, and get adequate rest. Visit your doctor, the nearest hospital, or health center if you or a family member becomes ill. A message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.
At Nagico, the things that matter to you matter to us. Like knowing you're covered when your house gets flooded, getting your settlements quickly and fairly when a fire hits your home, and making sure your business can keep going even after an accident happens on site. At Nagico, we're about much more than just insurance. We're about the big things and the small things that mean everything.
Hey, scan this. Boy, what that stand for?
We are St. Kitts and Nevis Waste Disposals.
Oh, so it's I just rent the big bin for when people clean in the yard and construction project and so?
Yes, we do that.
Okay, so what about septic tank and grease trap cleanings?
Yes, we do that.
Them portable toilet rental?
Yes, we do that.
So what about if I want to rent a sexy bar trailer for like VIP events or my outdoors wedding?
Yes, we do that.
Residential garbage pickup?
Yes, we do that.
Okay. So if my office have a bunch of documents we need shredded?
Yes, we do that.
Boy, I talking to you and you know, but when you answer me, I hearing like 10 people.
That's just the strength of our team working for you. Watch now. Call us at 662-3329 and we'll come and do that for you.
Like us on Facebook.
The St. Kitts and Nevis Bar Association is condemning threats made against High Court Judge Justice Eddie Ventos on social media for his most recent ruling in relation to the Granton Powell case. In a press release issued Friday, President of the Bar Association, Dahlia Joseph Rowe, said the bar strongly condemns such attacks on a member of our judiciary. The independence of the judicial is a fundamental part of our democratic society. We cannot allow the safety and independence of the judiciary to be compromised in any way by baseless and unwarranted threats, because some persons are dissatisfied with the ruling of a judge. While members of the public are entitled to express their views, they must do so lawfully and responsibly, the statement said. Mrs. Joseph Rowe said they understand the judge has been provided with additional security and that his security should be a matter of priority. The Bar Association president also called on political leaders to be responsible and encouraged their supporters to be civil and respectful at all times, especially during the election season. Meanwhile, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis issued a statement on Friday evening stating that it condemns the threats made against High Court Judge Eddie Ventos. The statement said the matter has been referred to the police who are presently carrying out an investigation. The statement said, quote, "The government of St. Kitts and Nevis takes this matter very seriously and condemns unequivocally this type of action and any other activity that threatens the well-being, safety, and security of members of the judiciary. We believe in the just application of the rule of law and the consistent promotion of peace, order, and good governance within this federation, and those who seek to breach same would be prosecuted to the full extent of the law." End quote. However, a press release from Granton Powell, also issued on Friday, said they are very concerned that this matter, which is pending before the court, has been turned into a political football. They said it is being used by parties seeking political and other advantages. We have therefore given instructions to our counsel to proceed with all immediate speed to determine this matter. We are dissatisfied with the ruling of the court dated Thursday, the 27th of February 2020, which came subsequent to a judgment handed down by the judge on the 28th October 2019, which said judgment is the subject of an appeal. At a status hearing on the said 27th February 2020, the ruling, referred to comprising of some 33 pages, was given without any prior notice to us, and even then without any opportunity for us to be heard before the ruling was made. We urge the Bar Association not to rush to judgment in this matter, especially as we have not been given an opportunity to be heard. Anything less will be interfering with the course of justice and going against the fundamental principles of the rule of law and will be prejudicing to us, the statement concluded. The February 27th ruling Granton Powell referred to is the most recent ruling by Justice Ventus, which calls for both Jonelle Powell and Lindsey Grant to be brought before a tribunal to determine whether they should be suspended from practicing for a specified period or be struck off the court roll. This is due to the ruling in a court matter where Tanzania Tanzil Tobin, a former client of Granton Powell, took the law firm to court on grounds of misappropriation of funds and breach of fiduciary duties. Granton Powell had acted on behalf of Mr. Tobin in the purchase of a condominium pursuant to an economic citizenship application dating back to 2013. Granton Powell has since appealed the ruling, though their initial application to appeal the default judgment was denied by the appeals court. This matter has forced the opposition leader, Dr. Denzel Douglas, to call on both Lindsey Grant, a government minister and member of parliament, and Jonelle Powell, a government-appointed ambassador and political candidate for the upcoming elections, to resign. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline. Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris is urging vigilance among residents and citizens in preparing for what he deems the inevitable entry of the coronavirus to the shores of St. Kitts and Nevis. In a national statement on the weekend, Prime Minister Harris said though there are no confirmed cases of the coronavirus in the Federation currently, it was inevitable that this would change.
In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have no confirmed cases at this time. I repeat, in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have no confirmed cases at this time. Given the spread of the new virus, it is highly likely, however, that it will reach our shores. Our government has therefore been on high alert, and the CMO has assured that we are taking every precaution and making all necessary preparations to respond and contain the spread of the virus when it arrives.
He assured the public that all the preparatory steps are being taken by the relevant authorities.
Headed by our Ministry of Health, including 2 very important press conferences and several releases by our Chief Medical Officer, in particular, and the Ministry of Health in general. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis wishes to assure our citizens and residents that all the necessary steps are being taken to ensure that the Federation is at a high level of preparedness for this outbreak. The working group was instrumental in strengthening surveillance at all ports of entry in the Federation and in conducting a successful simulation exercise to test the alert and communication systems of our national response mechanism. The simulation exercise was successfully executed. The coronavirus outbreak, will affect the Federation's health system, its social structure, and the economy. The response to this disease requires an all-of-society and all-of-government approach. COVID-19 National Working Group has already conducted sensitization sessions with a number of government and private sector entities, including the St. Kitts and Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce, TDC, the Development Bank, St. Christopher and Nevis Social Security Board, and the National Bank, among others.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister urged persons not to play politics with this serious health issue, as the health of the nation is more important. He also urged persons to take precautions and maintain proper hygiene.
We must also debunk and intentionally stop the spread of false information. At a time when our Federation is under threat from the virus, we should avoid playing party politics. Our citizens and residents must be wary of those who seek to use a time like this to further their own narrow and selfish interests ahead of those of all Kittitians and Nevisians, and indeed all residents here.
There are over 112,000 coronavirus cases to date and over 4,000 deaths. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline. The COVID-19 pandemic has created disruption across the world and is spreading across the Caribbean. Up to Newstime Friday, Jamaica has recorded 8 cases in the matter of 3 days, and this could increase as authorities do their tracing of persons who were in contact with infected persons. Most of the cases discovered so far are imported, mostly from the UK, who already has over 600 cases thus far, with deaths reaching double figures. Schools have been closed for 14 days, and the government has banned public gatherings for the next 2 weeks. Already, the storied Boys and Girls Track and Field Championship slated for later this month has been cancelled. The Ministry of Tourism has also suspended events for the month of March, and it would be noted to see if churches will congregate this weekend. A Scotiabank branch in New Kingston was closed immediately as it was discovered that one of the patients identified with COVID-19 visited the branch and interacted with staff there. A U.S. Embassy employee in Jamaica who also was tested positive has triggered remedial action at the embassy in Kingston. Guyana recorded its first coronavirus death after a 52-year-old woman who recently visited New York showed up at the Georgetown Public Hospital with respiratory problems, uncontrolled diabetes, and hypertension. After she died, it was discovered at the hospital that she had the coronavirus. The emergency unit at the hospital was immediately shut down and sanitized, and hospital workers who tended to the woman have been placed in isolation. The Caribbean Airlines plane that the patient traveled on from New York was eventually cleaned and sanitized, and the 13 crew members associated with the flight were placed on self-quarantine for a period of 14 days. Guyana has since beefed up its border control. Trinidad and Tobago and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are the other 2 Caribbean countries that have also confirmed coronavirus cases this week. Antigua and Barbuda on Friday also confirmed its first case of the coronavirus. Here in St. Kitts Nevis, the government, and more specifically the Ministry of Health, continues to advise persons to improve on personal hygiene as precautions to preventing the spread of the disease.
The government of St. Kitts and Nevis wishes to assure our citizens and residents that all the necessary steps are being taken to ensure that the Federation is at a high level of preparedness for this outbreak. The working group was instrumental in strengthening surveillance at all ports of entry in the Federation and in conducting a successful simulation exercise to test the alert and communication systems of our national response mechanism.
From a political standpoint, the opposition has been calling for increased measures to be taken to prepare, including seeking assistance from overseas.
Jamaica has requested from Cuba about 50 to 100 nurses, I think, because they know that their infrastructure is not such that they can deal with it alone. I know from the beginning that the only country that I suspect who can really deal with this if this were to hit the Caribbean as it's hitting Europe is Cuba, because it has a specific type of infrastructure and its experience from the Ebola. And I've been asking this government, call the Cubans in, bring in a number of specialists and ask them to help us to set up the infrastructure and a plan to deal specifically with it, even to deal with those who would become severely ill.
Some personal hygiene items have been sold out, and most notably hand sanitizers in pharmacies and supermarkets across St. Kitts. Some members of the public are not sure if we are ready for the coronavirus.
The coronavirus, it is a very serious virus, but I will start in the Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis, and I would hope that there are top security measures, especially at the Robert Llewellyn International Airport, where they are screening people, especially when they come from the countries which are more prone or have been infected by the coronavirus. And also too, the cruise ships that come to the Federation, that also should be taken into consideration for security reasons of protecting the citizens of St. Christopher and Nevis.
At the moment, we are all concerned about the virus. The virus is a global pandemic at the moment. So the only thing we could do is make sure that we are as prepared as possible. And I think we should do it on an individual level. So every person should do as much as they can to protect themselves and their families. At the moment, that's all we could do. As a country, I don't think we are as ready as we can be. However, there are a lot of other larger countries, first world countries, that are affected with the virus. And if them, who I think would have taken much more measures and much more precautions than we can, still weren't ready, I don't think we can be as ready.
Internationally, sporting and entertainment events have been either cancelled or postponed, including the NBA, European football leagues and competitions, tennis tournaments, and Formula One racing. SK Newsline will continue to monitor the developments of the coronavirus locally, regionally, and internationally. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.
Internist Dr. Terence Drew is calling on the government of St. Kitts and Nevis to get help from Cuba to set up a strong medical system to deal with the coronavirus or COVID-19. With St. Kitts and Nevis designated a high-risk country for the importation of the disease, Dr. Drew urges a robust national response to the coronavirus pandemic using the expertise of the medical community of Cuba because of their experience with dangerous infectious diseases. Dr. Drew also is a candidate of the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party and spoke in response to questions from the media regarding COVID-19 at a recent press conference. Regarding preparations that should be made, Dr. Drew made the case for urgent additional support.
We don't have an infectious disease specialist who is a specialist who deals with infections. We don't have a lung specialist or pulmonologist who would deal with most of the severe complications as a result. And we don't have an ICU specialist, so to speak. And therefore, I had asked the government, and Jamaica is now doing it. Jamaica has requested from Cuba about 50 to 100 nurses, I think, because they know that their infrastructure is not such that they can deal with it alone. I know from the beginning that the only country that I suspect who can really deal with this, if this were to hit the Caribbean as it's hitting Europe, is Cuba, because it has a specific type of infrastructure and its experience from the Ebola. And I've been asking this government to call the Cubans in, bring in a number of specialists, and ask them to help us to set up the infrastructure and a plan to deal specifically with it, even to deal with those who would become severely ill. One case can shut down the country to a great extent, or parts of it, and therefore I am saying that the government needs to bring everybody together. We need to have a more strategic, more succinct health plan and ask for help. Ask for help because we know the infrastructure that we have here in health cannot sustain this. I'm going to say it again. The government needs to ask for help now. We cannot be over-prepared. If we don't get a case, which is least likely, and we would have been prepared, good. We're in good standing, and the experience would help us for the next one, because the next one will come. It's just reality. But how we stand now, there are some gaps, even though I know there are people in the ministry of health and the health workers, doctors, nurses, they are very alert and they want to work hard. But from the top, I am saying to this government, we have gaps. They have to be filled. Ask for help and get everybody on board. And silly statements like people are making politics out of this is exactly what I said. It's a silly statement. We need to get prepared.
Dr. Terence Drew, medical practitioner and candidate of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. Glenn Bart for SKN Newsline. Several precautionary measures have been announced by Nevis's Premier Mark Brantley in an effort to slow the spread of COVID-19 should it emerge in St. Kitts and Nevis. In an address to the people of Nevis on Monday, 16th March, Premier Brantley revealed actions to be taken on gatherings, food production and incentives.
The Ministry of Health will shortly publish protocols to manage large events already planned for the island, such as our annual Inter-Primary School Championships and Agriculture Open Day. Inasmuch as seniors appear most susceptible to the worst impact of COVID-19, I have asked that with immediate effect, large gatherings of our senior groups be suspended and that visits to the Flamboyant Home and to the St. George's Anglican Home be restricted to immediate family or primary caregiver only. The COVID-19 virus appears to attack persons who are already sick with potentially disastrous consequences. I am well aware of the wonderful practice of our churches and religious groups to visit our hospital on Sundays to bring songs and prayers to the patients there. I accordingly crave the understanding of our church and religious community in temporarily suspending such group visits. I ask them, nevertheless, to offer their prayers for our sick and infirm, as indeed I ask them to pray for all of Nevis.
Premier Brantley also called on farmers to increase food production, announced the setting up of a COVID-19 hotline for persons suspecting they have the disease, and the removal of duties and VAT on products such as hand sanitizers, soaps, disinfectants, masks, gloves, and protective clothing. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
Sporting associations on St. Kitts are monitoring the impact of COVID-19 on the hosting of their sporting events. The Federal Ministry of Education, in a press release this week, announced the postponement of the Rams Primary School Championship and the TDC Interschool Championship due to concerns over the coronavirus. The ministry said the two marquee sporting events originally scheduled for March 21 and 22 and March 27th to the 29th respectively were put on hold after extensive deliberations with all stakeholders and the advice of the Ministry of Health. Mr. Darrell Lloyd, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, said, quote, "The health and well-being of our citizens is of greatest priority, and the Ministry of Sports has taken a principled stance to ensure that we do not compromise anyone's health as we seek to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic," end quote. He further revealed that there will be continued discussions to determine future dates for the events once the all-clear is given. The Ministry of Sports is charged with the development of athletes and other related stakeholders in the sporting sector, the release continued, and it is also mandated to ensure that safety is a matter of priority while working towards such. The ministry thanked SKN Athletics, which organizes the meet, the main sponsors Rams and TDC, the Ministry of Education, and all other stakeholders for their continued support. Meanwhile, the St. Kitts Nevis Football Association said in a statement on Tuesday it is monitoring the situation as it relates to COVID-19 and is prepared to take the necessary steps where required. It said, quote, "Our actions and decisions in response to the coronavirus will be guided by advice and recommendations from the Government of St. Kitts and Nevis through the Ministry of Health. Thus far, we have not been advised of any actions that should be taken by the Football Association in relation to the activities. However, we wish at this time to use the power of football to raise awareness designed to educate persons about preventative and precautionary measures which can be taken to combat the spread of this disease. The association encourages persons to wash or sanitize your hands frequently, especially before eating and after contact with people. Avoid touching your face, in particular eyes, nose, and mouth, as this can prevent the virus from entering your body. Cover your mouth and nose with a disposable tissue while coughing or sneezing, and use the nearest waste receptacle to dispose of it after use. Avoid close contact within 1 meter or 3 feet, especially with people who display symptoms of the virus, such as cough or fever, and stay at home if you feel unwell, develop fever, or other respiratory symptoms. The association said it will keep in contact with all stakeholders to continue to monitor the situation as it develops locally. It says that football has the power to bring people together for a common good. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.
You care about what goes on your skin. You care about the ingredients, organic and natural products. We have Rituals brand, Victoria's Secret, and much more. Discover the collection of prestige natural beauty. There are too many chemicals. Time to change. Go to Lucky's Duty Free at King's Pavilion Hotel on Bay Road, Bastyr. Treat yourself as a princess. Also, Bath and Body Works coming soon. Check us out on Facebook. Open hours are from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Give us a call, 466-7059. Lucky's Duty Free.
Quality Diagnostic Laboratory, your newest partner in your healthcare. We offer the latest in on-island clinical laboratory testing. A comprehensive range of blood tests, urine tests, stool and other testing such as cholesterol and sugar testing, as well as hormone, kidney and liver functions, and many more. Quality Diagnostic Laboratory is located at the corner of Keon Street and Fines Avenue, opposite the Greenlands pasture. Our opening hours from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday are designed with you in mind. We are also open on Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. for your further convenience. Call or contact us at 465-6657 or email us at info@qualitydiagnosticlab.com. Quality Diagnostic Laboratory. Excellence in performance.
Looking for a clean haircut to make you look your best? Then come to Creative Barber Salon on Church Street, Bastyr. At Creative Barber Salon, you can choose from a wide variety of services: straight haircut, cut and shave, square and shave, children haircut, ladies cut, square, and much more. Customer service guaranteed. Opening hours Monday to Thursday 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Friday to Saturday 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 765-0460. Visit Creative Barber Salon today on Church Street, Bastyr, specializing in all styles of haircuts.
The St. Kitts Tourism Authority has scaled down its promotional activities for a short period as source markets tackle COVID-19 in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. The world travel industry has been hit hard. Reduced demand and imposed travel restrictions have forced airlines to make drastic cuts in their operations as countries combat the spread of COVID-19. This trend has impacted visitor arrivals and airline services into the Federation, with American Airlines and British Airways responding to the impact of the novel coronavirus. This has left St. Kitts Tourism Authority with the only option of curtailing promotional activities for several weeks, explained the St. Kitts Tourism Authority CEO Raquel Brown.
So after a strong start, really what we really need to focus on is what's the St. Kitts Tourism Authority going to be doing moving forward. So we've given ourselves a time frame. After Easter, it could happen before, but after Easter, we are going to ramp up our campaigns ahead, which means in all our source markets and our feeder markets, whether they're direct gateways or whether they're feeder markets which they fly over Miami, we are going to be boosting up our promotions as it speaks to anything with TV, digital, and our sales team. We've seen a lot of cancellation for the trade shows that we normally do, whether it's Chicago or it's Dallas, travel and adventure shows. Those are one of the few consumer shows that we do. We've seen cancellations, so we're not doing any sales in any markets other than the home by phone call or in the home source market. It's unfair to put our sales team out to be engaged at this time to be going over the U.S. to the sales calls.
Travel specialists agree that the pandemic has affected travel and tourism in an extreme manner that will have challenging spin-offs in the months ahead. Glenn Back for SKN Newsline.
The rollout of the new smart garbage bins began on Monday at homes in Stapleton. The rollout was done in the presence of Minister with responsibility for the Solid Waste Management Corporation, SWMC, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, representatives from ProSource Limited, the company that supplies the bins, and the local media. The technology on these smart bins allow for a bin to be linked to the electricity meter of the house where it is assigned. The garbage trucks will be equipped with a device that will scan the barcodes on the bins to determine if they are in the assigned location. If the bin is stolen or misplaced in another location, the technology allows for the SWMC to be aware of this and measures taken to return the bin to its rightful owner. A mechanical device installed on the trucks will lift the bins and empty its contents into the truck, removing the need for this to be done manually. Reginald Clark of ProSource Limited explained this procedure to the minister and two residents in Stapleton on Monday.
If the bin is stolen, it's GPS located to your home. And once it is used, the coordinates will be picked up and we will know where that bin was moved to. So it would be found.
So you're saying if this bin is picked up from here and taken to KR, you could go and identify it exactly where it is?
You identify exactly where it is in KR.
Mr. Clark also spoke to the advantages of these smart bins.
With the bin and the system that's installed on the trucks, right now no one, the collectors do not have to lift this bin at all. In fact, the same principle of rolling it is how they would basically roll it to your truck. The truck has a cart lifter. The cart lifter is designed to operate to lift the bin from these two devices here. So there's no strain at all on your sanitation worker at all for Solid Waste Corporation in lifting this bin anymore. All he needs to do is to wheel it to the truck. The truck will do the rest. Lift it, tip it, and put it back on the ground. And all he needs to then is to wheel it back to its original location.
Walter Kateski, whose company, Rarig Pacific, manufactures the bins, explained the simple step in how the bins are distributed and registered.
So the procedure is, we come to the house, we have a bin ready, we verify the number on the meter, and then we scan the bin serial number, and it registers the coordinates where the bin was delivered to.
Sita Carey, a resident of Stapleton, expressed her satisfaction with the smart bin.
I think it's a good idea to distribute the bins because a lot of people don't really have bins. Also, it helps to keep the environment clean. And with the load of corona story, it is good that we could try to safeguard ourselves. It's an ease for the workers, of course, because it's not easy lifting some of those bins. The bin itself probably is very heavy. And then you have to add stuff to it. So I would think it's a plus for the workers.
Minister Eugene Hamilton announced last week that some 12,000 bins will be distributed to households across in kits. The SWMC and other private contractors will be responsible for the distribution of the bins. The St. Kitts Nevis Football Association has suspended all football-related activities as of March 21st due to coronavirus or COVID-19 precautionary measures. A statement from the SKNFA on Saturday said the executive committee of the SKNFA, after consultation with the health authorities in St. Kitts Nevis, has taken the decision as a precautionary measure to immediately suspend all football-related activities indefinitely as of March 21st, 2020. The SKNFA said it will closely monitor the developments as it relates to COVID-19 in St. Kitts Nevis and shall further advise its stakeholders on the resumption of football activities on April 15th, 2020. All stakeholders are encouraged to continue to adhere to the guidelines and recommendations of the world, regional, and local health authorities and to keep safe during this challenging period, the statement continued. It added that it takes this opportunity to thank its stakeholders for its understanding and patience throughout this period. Other sporting events in St. Kitts Nevis have also been postponed due to COVID-19 measures, including the Gulf Insurance Primary School Championships on Nevis and the Rams Primary School Championships and TDC Interschool Championships on St. Kitts. Several sporting events around the world have also been postponed and cancelled as a result of COVID-19. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline. After consultation with sponsors and principal stakeholders, the Gulf Insurance Primary School Championships and the Agriculture Open Day on Nevis have both been postponed due to coronavirus fears. So disclosed Premier Mark Brantley, who added that the Agriculture Open Day has now been postponed to October 2020.
The Cabinet of the NIA would have convened under the chairmanship of the Honorable Alexis Jeffers as acting Premier, and has determined that in light of the strong recommendations of the primary sponsors and principal stakeholders, that this year's staging of the Inter-Primary Schools Championship, scheduled for April 1st, 2020, be postponed until further notice. My brothers and sisters, we are also aware that the much anticipated Agricultural Open Day was scheduled for the 26th and 27th March 2020. After consultations with the various stakeholders and the indication from the Taiwanese and our friends from Statia, who normally attend in large numbers, that they could not attend this year, the Cabinet has also accepted the recommendation that the Agricultural Open Day be postponed.
Nonetheless, a farmers' market will be hosted later this month, firstly in Charlestown and later across the island. While not happy with the postponements, Premier Brantley said his cabinet must be guided by the advice of the stakeholders. The two scholastic meets in St. Kitts, carded for later this month, were also postponed. Meanwhile, Mr. Brantley spoke of the impact of the impending closure of hotels on Nevis due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
I should also report that we have now had word that some hotels on the island will be closing, and others have already closed some departments. The economic shock at the household, local, and national level will be substantial. I commit to working closely with the Honorable Prime Minister to determine the best approach for our people, bearing in mind that none of us brought this calamity on ourselves. I advise, lastly, that I have today written to the lone member of the Parliamentary Opposition, the Honourable Cleone Stapleton Simmons, updating her on my government's efforts thus far and inviting her participation in the ongoing effort to ensure the safety and security of our people.
The Premier guarded against following fake news and encouraged persons to get official information from the health authorities on Nevis. He also encouraged residents to pray. Audrey Huey, SKN Newsline.
Non-nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis could be refused entry into the country according to an updated travel advisory from authorities. Speaking in a national broadcast on COVID-19, Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris spoke to the tightening of measures being used at the Federation's ports of entry. Also instituted is a mandatory period of quarantine for travelers coming from any of the 10 countries listed in the updated travel advisory, Prime Minister Harris disclosed.
Citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis arriving from the aforementioned destinations or any other jurisdiction will be subject to entry screening and a mandatory 14-day quarantine period upon arrival. International travelers from the aforementioned jurisdictions are strongly advised not to travel to St. Kitts and Nevis at this time, as you will be refused entry unless an exceptional case for entry is made. All non-national travelers arriving from any other international destination will go through an advanced screening process at the point of entry, regardless of your point of origin. They will be subjected to a mandatory quarantine period of not less than 14 days at government-designated quarantine sites. They will receive health checks by Ministry of Health designated quarantine officials on a daily basis, and they, of course, may be refused entry.
The government is moving immediately to recruit additional immigration and customs officers to further secure the national borders or ports of entry. Glenn Bath for SKN Newsline. Almost $17 million have been allocated to date towards preparations for COVID-19 should it enter the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, in an address to the nation on COVID-19, said the amount is in addition to budgeted resources of the Ministry of Health. The additional funds, he said, will be used to purchase essential equipment and supplies needed for frontline engagement against COVID-19 should an outbreak occur. In addition, the government has sought support from the governments of several countries.
Our preparations, of course, are ongoing. We are in the process of acquiring additional essential protective equipment, including masks, gloves, sanitizers, ventilators, and ambulances, to name a few. Our early preparations mean we are ahead of several countries in the queue for necessary items which require urgent production. Our preparations involve us drawing on the expertise and experience of our partners in the region and further afield. We have reached out to several governments for support and assistance, including the United States of America, the Republic of China, Taiwan, and Cuba. Through this engagement, we have requested external support for some 85 health professionals, even as we reach out to our retired health workers at home. The federal government has committed so far to an additional $16.9 million to the health sector in response to COVID-19. This sum of $16.9 million is in addition to the $62 million budgeted for the health sector in 2020.
Prime Minister Harris also indicated that the COVID-19 hotline 311 is being set up, while outreach continues with private sector organizations and the dissemination of reliable information to the public. Glenn Batt for SKN Newsline.
The opposition St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party is calling for the government to absorb the cost of fees for testing for COVID-19.
Been collected by the government of $200 for confirmation of tests that have been sent off to CARPHA. I believe this fee that is being charged is a disincentive for persons to come forward if they have their own feelings of unwell to do this test. The government has to absorb this $200. What is $200 to save a life? There's a moral obligation on the part of the government to absorb these costs. After all, we're in a crisis. If the people don't have $200, it means their test will never be confirmed. It is a disincentive for people to come forward. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to drive people away from testing. And so we must call upon the government tonight to remove this $200 fee that they are charging people. It must be free testing.
The former Prime Minister also listed ways in which the government should help persons who have been financially impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic.
We would like to urge the Harris administration to consider implementing a form of unemployment insurance that would provide a weekly, fortnightly, or monthly stipend for individuals who may have lost their jobs as a result of downsizing, particularly those in the tourism and manufacturing sectors. Our people must be given the assurance that they will not be thrown out of their homes, their businesses will not be foreclosed on, and students won't lose their student loans and have to return from universities.
He also called for an economic stimulus package for businesses.
I also hope that at the time of recovery from this crisis, appropriate stimulus measures will be instituted to assist our businesses, small and large.
Dr. Douglas also urged persons to practice proper hygiene as a means of tackling the spread of the coronavirus. Audrey Huey, SKN Newsline. For all your printing needs at top-notch quality, go to Digital Print Plus, located on Princess Street, Bastyr, St. Kitts. At Digital Print Plus, you get the best in business cards, letterheads, envelopes, wristbands, tent cards, rack cards, flyers, brochures, logo designs, posters, photos, architectural designs, 3D renderings, and so much more. Digital Print Plus gives you the best quality at competitive prices. Contact us at 767-7468 or email digitalprintskn@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook at digitalprintskn. Digital Print Plus for all your printing needs at the best quality. Autoplus Car Wash, located on the College Street Gut, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Bring your car to Autoplus Car Wash to remove water stains, wiper marks. Get your doors, roof panel cleaned, seat floor mats, buffing, headlights, and engine wash. You get quality service at the best price at Autoplus Car Wash. They really care for your car. Call 765-5140 or visit them on the College Street Gut, Bastyr, St. Kitts. Autoplus Car Wash, where the service is number one. Now you can have SKN Newsline on the go. Introducing SKN Newsline Android mobile app. Search SKN Newsline in the Google Play Store. Download the app free and stay up to date with TV news in St. Kitts and Nevis in the palm of your hands. With this app, you can watch our news reports, watch our live news feed on SKN Newsline TV, engage with us and other app users in the chat room, look at our special features, send us news tips, and call us directly. It's news on the go. The SKN Newsline Android mobile app. Download it free today. KVK Enterprises at Boyd's Housing Development, Trinity Parish, St. Kitts. For all your t-shirt printing, banners and signs, promotional products, shipping, motivational speeches, computer classes, agro-processing, art and craft, and desktop publishing. Come to KVK Enterprises at Boyd's Housing Development, Trinity, St. Kitts. Telephone 661-0118 or 765-7270. Email drkhrystus@kvklives.com or visit www.kvklives.com. KVK Enterprises. Bearing placards and wearing t-shirts with the words "Farmers' Lives Matter." A small group of farmers launched a protest in front of government headquarters on Wednesday to decry what they believe is a lack of attention to their grouses. Some of these farmers in recent weeks have lamented losses of livestock to the dreaded tropical bunting disease, which some of them said decimated their livestock.
We have a dreadful disease here now, and over for the past years, the government and the Ministry of Agriculture is neglecting us very badly. They reach as far as make us sign a document for compensation for the animal that we lost. I lost about 70-something head of goats for myself, my son, my young 24-year son, lost about probably 20-something plus with cows. So we lost over $100,000 in agriculture.
Solomon Morton, one of the protesting farmers, said the government has not been listening to their concerns.
There must be some listening. There must be a round table discussion where views would be heard, opinions would be shared. We're not saying that everything they do is bad. We're not saying everything they do is right. But we're saying listen to us. Pay us some respect. Come, talk to us. Instead of that, all we're getting is snubs and insults all along. We can't take it anymore.
Meanwhile, another farmer said their protest was not politically motivated.
I'm here to hear that this is not a political issue, so don't want nobody run away with the wrong idea. I admire 15 years of palm and had the same problem with agriculture. I admire 20 years of labor and had the same problem with agriculture. And I want unity to rectify this problem immediately, because agriculture been suffering under every and single administration. I myself had a proposal, went to Uhailiga, and my proposal was turned down. After the government changed to Labour, I took the proposal to Timothy Harris in the same office, and the proposal was turned down by Ms. Weeks at Agriculture. So I'm grieving from since
15 years of farm and 20 years of labor.
They should be dealing with the farmers them as if food matter, agriculture matters, but it doesn't seem that way to me. And then, we've been misrepresented on the radio and shown under the bus. And most of the time when we stand up for ourselves now, they say we're rude. But how could we be the bad guys when we're mourning and facing for pain for loss? So those are just some of the concerns. We have many concerns, but we cannot speak all of them on the ear.
Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris on Tuesday announced the stimulus package for businesses and workers impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, which included a $10 million injection into the agriculture sector. But the farmers have doubts as to how this money will be used to address their pressing concerns.
We have said before, get a farmer on these boats so that when the money is dispersed, at least it would be some transparency. We would know where the money is going. Nobody's taking us on. Just recently, some money was given for Beatty cattle. Out of it, a brand new pickup was bought. How much was the cost of the pickup? Nobody knows. How much is there? Nobody knows. And we are saying we are the ones that are feeling the burden. And we need some respect. We are demanding some attention.
Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws has rebuffed social media messaging that she described as malicious and false. Referring to comments circulating on social media platforms, Dr. Laws said the messages were an attempt to bring dishonor on the National COVID-19 Task Force. Other postings suggested that the relationship between the Prime Minister and herself was confrontational.
There is no such confrontational relationship. Neither is there any political influence being exerted on me in the performance of my duties. Nothing good can come from these falsehoods that are deliberately contrived to create ill will, fear, and distrust in the public who are already concerned about this pandemic.
Further, the Chief Medical Officer dismissed as false several circulating social media postings that suggest underreporting of COVID-19 cases for St. Kitts and Nevis.
As the international health regulations, IHR focal point for the Federation, I am duty-bound to report all CARPHA laboratory confirmed cases of COVID-19 to the Pan American Health Organization within 24 hours of receipt of the laboratory results from CARPHA. Both Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, and CARPHA are partners of the Ministry of Health and can corroborate the information we have provided to the public. Additionally, the public is also free to regularly check the websites of the World Health Organization and Pan American Health Organization, where the COVID-19 status of each United Nations member state is updated on a daily basis. As have been noted by the Ministry of Health repeatedly, we want the public to understand that the ministry remains the only official source of information on COVID-19. Sensational stories circulating on social media should be taken as false, misleading, and questionable.
The CMO reminded the general public that the Ministry of Health is the only official source of information on COVID-19 in St. Kitts and Nevis. She said sensational stories circulating on social media should be considered false, misleading, and questionable. Glenn Barth reporting for SKN Newsline.
The St. Kitts Music Festival, slated for June 24th to 28, 2020, has been postponed until June 23rd to 27th of 2021, says Minister of Tourism Lindsay Grant during an address to the nation on Thursday.
With borders across the world closing, airline services cancelled, a cruise sector that has suspended services, and many communities in North America, in Europe, and other regions on the mandatory lockdown, affecting millions of persons, we here in St. Kitts and Nevis have decided to take action to protect the integrity of the festival. Our priority remains the safety and the general well-being of all involved. Given the uncertainties, we have therefore concluded that it serves the best interests of all parties to postpone this year's St. Kitts Music Festival from the 24th to the 28th of June 2020 until June the 23rd to 27th, 2021.
The tourism minister stated that the health and safety of all citizens and residents in St. Kitts and Nevis, performing artists, and the festival's patrons has been paramount in the committee's consideration. The minister said that the committee has been proactive in their approach and have prepared accordingly for any escalation in the event of the COVID-19 pandemic reaching our shores and having a local impact. The St. Kitts Music Festival Committee confirmed that all online tickets that were purchased in advance have been fully refunded. I am Jacinthia Teixeira for SKN Newsline.
St. Kitts and Nevis will be on a 24-hour lockdown effective Tuesday, March 31st at 7 p.m. to Friday, April 3rd at 6 a.m. According to Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris in a national address on Monday night, this was necessary because people were disregarding the restrictions of the curfew that was instituted on Saturday night. This means the current curfew regulations will be repealed.
Despite a clear statement that all citizens must stay at home, except in certain very limited situations, the Police High Command has reported that many persons have chosen to disobey these regulations. Irresponsible behavior will not be tolerated. Offenders will be promptly arrested and charged. We will not hesitate to prosecute those found in breach of the emergency powers COVID-19 regulations. We are in a war, and this war we must win. Together we must be united, with all of us doing our part to ensure our safety, that of our families, communities, and by extension, our beloved country. This is not a time for reckless behavior. Sober, responsible behavior is essential. The Cabinet of Ministers has determined that, after consultation with the Police High Command, the National COVID-19 Working Group, the Chief Medical Officer, and the Medical Chief of Staff of the JNF General Hospital, that there be a 24-hour curfew, a total lockdown, from 7 p.m. Tuesday 31st March to 6 a.m. Friday 3rd April in the first instance. It means that the current regulations will be repealed and new regulations made in which no one except the security forces and other security personnel, the healthcare officers, technical emergency officers of utilities, including telecoms, and media personnel will be allowed out of their residences.
The Prime Minister stressed that these measures, though inconvenient, are designed to contain the spread of COVID-19 in St. Kitts and Nevis.
That once there is an initial finding of a confirmed case, the situation worsens before it gets better. A similar pattern is expected here in our beloved Federation. The number of cases will therefore increase, peak, plateau, and then decline. The time taken to flatten the curve depends on how quickly our citizens and residents take all precautions and eliminate chances of further transmission via social distancing, strict compliance with emergency powers COVID-19 regulations, and exercise common sense. These powers are aimed at restricting the spread of the virus from one person to the next. They are intended to protect you and keep your loved ones safe. Please abide by the regulations. We are working hard to identify, isolate, and provide early care for patients. By minimizing contact, we will keep the numbers down and manageable.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister encouraged persons not to engage in impulsive buying, as there is enough food to satisfy the local demand.
I strongly reiterate that there is no need to engage in impulsive buying. There is an adequate stock of food on hand. This week alone, some 57 containers are arriving with food, vegetables, and beverages. The short point is that vessels are coming on schedule every week. Do not crowd shopping centers to purchase and stockpile food that may very well expire and ultimately be a waste of money, as you would have to dispose of it. An adequate supply is in hand for the next 6 to 8 weeks. I urge you to please act calmly and wisely.
Dr. Harris commended civil society for their contribution during these times and the citizens and residents for their understanding in spite of the inconveniences created due to these stringent measures. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline. The state of emergency announced by the government on the weekend was very evident on Monday, as most of the business establishments in Bastille were closed. With the exception of pharmacies, utility companies, some restaurants and supermarkets, activity in Bastille was very slow, as only a few people could be found in the streets. In the interest of social distancing, businesses continued to limit no more than 10 persons inside their buildings. This supermarket on Sprott Street had customers lining up outside and had their hands sanitized before being allowed inside. On 4th Street at this Flow store location, persons can pay bills and purchase top-up at the kiosk placed outside the store. Even government offices are limiting the access of persons inside, such as the STEP office on the Bay Road. STEP employers do not have to enter the office to drop off their timesheets, as the drop box is placed at the entrance. Walking by the West Line bus terminal on the Bay Road, very little activity and buses present. On the streets, law enforcement officers conducted spot checks to enforce the rule that persons who are not working in essential services should remain at home. This created long traffic buildup on the Island Main Road in various communities. Some persons were prevented from going forward and had to return home. Others were allowed access. SK Newsline understands that passengers in some public buses were asked to change their seating arrangements to suit the prescribed order of 5 passengers seated in separate seating. Buses with more than the prescribed number of passengers were reportedly pulled over. Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris stressed on Saturday during a radio interview on Win FM that persons who were not working in entities that were considered essential services were to stay at home, as the authorities seek to limit the spread of the coronavirus. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.